Welcome to this video. Let's make this Christmas crafty by using all of the recycled and household items that we already have. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a Christmas advent calendar using toilet rolls as well as recycled cardboard. So the first thing I'm doing is I am starting to paint my toilet rolls using some acrylic paint, and I'm chosen the colors green and red as my main colors. When you've finished painting your toilet rolls, they should all look like this, and then we can move on to the next step, which is decorating these a little bit more. So for this, I have some gold paint, as well as some silver paint and some bronze paint, all in acrylics. I also have this fan paintbrush that I'm going to be using to create a cool texture onto my already red and green painted glue rolls. So I'm dipping my paintbrush into my gold, and I'm using this fan brush onto the red and sort of twisting it as I put it down onto the paint, and it's creating a interesting pattern and texture with this color on the red. Here's what it looks like when it's fully finished, and now I'm going to move on to my green loo roll, and I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the silver and do the same technique onto the green, twisting the paintbrush in my hand as I place it onto the loo roll. When they're all finished, they have this beautiful shine to them with the metallic gold and silver on the colors, and this is what all of them look like together. And now we can move on to the next step. This step, I'm going to be taking my silver, so I'm kind of twisting colors now. First I used the gold on the red, and now I'm going to be using the silver to paint a oval shape onto the middle of my red cartons. Once the oval is fully painted, I'm going to take a white paint marker, and you can also use white paint for this step, and I'm going to be painting onto and around the shape that I've just painted with the silver, so the white is going to cover that whole area. On my green one, I'm going to dip into that beautiful bronze color and also paint a oval shape onto the green, making sure to cover all of the background and just create a nice oval shape with this bronze. The idea with the white paint marker is to create kind of like the effect of snow around this oval that we've painted, and this will be part of our main decoration for the little Advent days. And here's what they are starting to look like all together. They've got a really nice Christmassy feel with all of the colors. And the next thing that we can do is, if you do have leftover paint from this part of the project, I did a sketchbook painting just using the leftover paint, and this is how it turned out. So that's an idea for if you have a lot of leftover paint. What you could do with it is just make another Christmassy artwork. And now we're moving on to the next step, which is where we're going to create the actual background, which is going to hold the Advent calendar days. So I found this big piece of cardboard, and I'm just checking that all of the loo rolls fit onto it, and then I can kind of work out how big I need to cut this piece of cardboard. So I'm just using some regular scissors, and this is just a really great way of using up the cardboard. I am going to stick two pieces of cardboard together here to make this as strong as possible. because you do want your stand, which is what we're making now, to be really secure and to kind of stand the test of time. Because if you make this well, then you can definitely reuse this advent calendar year after year and kind of redo the decorations in a different style each year. For this next part, I've covered the cardboard with white paper and I've marked off where I want to have a hole. This hole is going to allow this advent calendar to be hung up against a wall if you'd like, or on a fireplace, or it can be leaned against the wall too. So I've marked out this hole and cut it out of the cardboard using a cutting knife. And now I'm going to be using a little bit of paper tape. I'm using paper tape because it's an easy to paint over tape, and I'm covering around the different parts of this picture just to kind of make the edges look a little bit neater, so that when I paint it eventually, it'll just be really easy to paint. Following on with the next part of this project is to make these shelves that the advent pieces can sit on. So what I've got here is pieces of cardboard that are the length of my background. I had to stick some cardboard together because I couldn't find boxes big enough, but if you have a box that is big enough to fit across, that would be even more perfect. So then I'm also going to be kind of making smaller bits of cardboard to stick on the side to create the shelf edge. I reinforced mine with a little bit of extra thinner cardboard to make sure that it was sturdy enough to work as the shelf. And these are all the pieces that you'll need to make each of the shelves. You will need one long piece, one thinner piece, and these tiny small pieces to go on the edges of the shelf. Once everything is stuck together, this is what it looks like. I used a combination of paper glue as well as paper tape to secure this together. I'll show you in a few seconds how I created this, just to make sure you know. So I placed the big piece and the smaller piece next to each other, laid flat, and then I used paper tape to secure them together. Using as much paper tape as you can, because the more you secure it, obviously the stronger it's going to be. Now you can fold it so that you can see how your shelf will look, and then the next step is to secure both of the sides using also paper tape or paper glue, or both. A combination of both can also work. So I'm doing this one side first, and yeah, just really holding it in place. And you'll see that it kind of slots together nicely. So, and once you've stuck the paper tape on, it should look very much like a shelf. And here you can see all four of them done. And now you can sort of place them out to measure where exactly on the advent calendar you want to have them. We want to make sure that we have enough space to put our advent pieces. So now I've secured the shelves onto the back cardboard using a bit of cardboard. This is helping to really make the shelf secure so that it stays on. And I'm also going to be adding some extra tape as well. So I've added also onto the top part as well as the bottom, as you can see here in this frame. And when you feel the shelves, they should feel pretty stable. Moving on back to the actual advent pieces, I'm now preparing some painted papers. About 2 or 3 of them should be more than enough to cover all of our advent days. There are 24 advent days. So what I'm going to do now is take one of the advents and trace around the size of it, but then add on another about centimeter in size. So it makes a circle, and I'm cutting that out. Once I have all the circles cut out, I can then take my advent piece, trace around it again so that I'll see exactly the size of it. Like this, you can see, you can draw this line with a pencil. Then what I want to do is take my scissors and cut little slits into the green circle up until where that line is, as I'm doing here. And you do these little cuts all the way around. You can make as many of them as you want, but I would say maybe like 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters maximum as the size. Then what you want to do is fold those pieces up so that they are sitting like this, and then you'll take some glue. So now we want to use like a really nice good paper glue. So I have this one, and I'm going to put that glue onto the bottom edge of my advent piece all the way around. So a really nice good portion of glue. This glue is great because when it dries, it actually dries clear, so you won't see it, and it won't matter really how much you're using. Then I place my piece down, and I'm now going to press up and stick all of the sides onto that glue, so going all the way around. When it's dry, it should look something like this, and you want to do this to all 24 of your advent pieces. These are going to help us be able to put stuff inside the advents, and so that we can close it later and nothing falls out. And they do dry really well, and this is just normal printer paper that I've used, and it is pretty secure once it's glued on. So that's all, and yeah, here's what they all look like. They are coming together slowly, but this is a lot of fun, and there's so many different ways that you can do this project. And now we're going to move on to decorating the little picture part. So I've gone through all of my scraps, and I found this really nice shiny paper that I think will be perfect for this project. Now I'm going to cut my shiny paper into little rectangles like this, and these are going to become candles. So my idea is to have a little shiny candle on each of these 24 advents. I'm then now going to paint the flame of the candle. So I'm starting by taking a light yellow and a very small brush and just creating a circular sort of motion and a circle to represent the flame. I'm then also adding a dot of white in the center of that circle. I'm using a black paint marker to make my candle wick. And then I'm also going to take a bright yellow and just really highlight that flame with a little extra brightness. So I'm painting all the way around that lighter circle. And this is how they turned out. I'm pretty happy with them as candles. I think they're pretty cute, and really any picture could be here. So I think every year I'm just going to create a different look to these. But here's what they look like on the shelf so far. And next up, let's work a little bit more on the shelf. So I'm going to be paper macheing over my shelf. I'm just going to use some brown paper and Mod Podge to kind of smooth the surface a little bit because of all of the attachment cardboard pieces. I want to make it look a little bit smoother. I guess you don't have to do this part, but I think it kind of helps just to like neaten it up a little bit so that it's always going to look homemade. But the point is that I want to be able to paint over it, so I want a little bit of a smoother surface. So I'm putting down the glue, then putting down the paper, and then an extra bit of glue on top of that, and that needs to dry for quite a long time outside. So I left it in the sun and just let it dry really properly. And now what I'm going to do is, now that it's fully dry, I'm going to paint this black, and then I'm going to paint a very solid black color over the whole shelf. And this is kind of going in with my look. So my idea for this is to create kind of like a starry night. So now what I'm doing is taking a paintbrush and some bright yellow and just splattering that onto my background. I'm also going to paint some mistletoe onto the shelves to really give a nice Christmassy look. And this is literally the stage when you could paint anything you want. You could decorate this like a snowland. You could, there's a lot of different ideas. And next year I'll definitely do something different. But this year I'm excited for this look, and I think it'll go quite nicely with all of the little candles. I then am lastly for this painting a nice big shooting star in my sky. So I'm using gold acrylic paint to paint this star, and I'm just going to make it really big and bold and have it going right across that night sky. And yeah, so this is what it looked like at the end. I'm really excited about how it turned out. And I added some little silver dots as well and some little white dots onto my sky. And now comes the fun part where we can actually fill up all of these advent pieces, so you can put anything you like inside. For my ones, I'm using candy and chocolates, and I'm also going to make a little note to put in with each of them. So what I'm doing here is taking an A4 paper, I'm folding it a couple of times to the smallest size, and I just need enough space that I can write a decent sized note. You could also make a Christmas joke or little Christmas tasks, little games, emoji games where you kind of have to guess what the picture is. There's so many different things you could put inside here. I'm also going to be making a red border around some of these papers and a green border around some others, just to really get that Christmassy vibe. Once I've got everything I want inside, I'm then going to press the top parts of the loo roll together and use a stapler to attach this. There's actually a couple of different ways that you can close these sort of loo rolls, but I figured this would make a nice look. It almost reminds me of like a tube of paint, so maybe one year I will decorate these as tubes of paint, but this was a way that worked, and I think it just secured it quite nicely and closed it. And then when we open them, what we'll do is just take a pair of scissors and snip a little bit across the top where the staples are. So here they are. I think the peacock also was quite interested in this design and in this little advent, very curious. And then I could now put them onto the finished shelf, and I think the colors all look super cool. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I'd love to share more art videos with you. And here's the finished look of this advent calendar. There were a couple more that I needed to get a few more treats to put inside, so I haven't got all the numbers here, but this is more or less what it looks like, and I think it's got a really cool Christmas vibe. So thanks so much for joining me for this video, and I'll see you again soon.